Assalamualaikum students, I hope you all are fine. As you can see, today is 2nd January 2024 and we are going to start our new lesson for grade 5, that is how I learned to write. The unit number 18 from Oxford Reading Circle. In this lesson we will learn few new vocabulary words and we will also rephrase this lesson as well. So let's start. This is basically a story of a little boy who is eager to learn horse riding. So he is telling his own story that how I started riding a horse. When I was a little fellow, we used to study every day, and only on Sundays and holidays went out and played with our brothers. Once my father said the children must learn to ride, send them to the riding school. I was the youngest of the brothers, and I asked, "May I too learn to ride?" My father said, "You will fall down." I could see that he didn't want me to join my elder brothers. I began to beg him to let me learn and I almost cried. As you can see, this little boy who was very eager to learn horse riding along with his brothers, that's why he actually begged his father and even cried that please make me send me also with my brothers to learn the horse riding. All right, my father said, you may go too. Only look out. Don't cry when you fall off. He who does not once fall down from a horse will not learn to ride. So finally, his father agreed to send him to the horse riding school. When Wednesday came, all three of us were taken to the riding school. We entered by a large porch, and from the large porch went to a smaller one. Beyond the porch was a very large room. Instead of a floor, it had sand. And in this room were gentlemen and ladies, and just such boys as we. That was the riding school. Now he's just telling the appearance of the room, and there was all sand. The floor was covered with all sand, and in this room were gentlemen and ladies and just such boys as we, of that age, of the same age. Many boys were there too. They were there to learn the horse riding. The riding school was not very light, and there was a smell of horses, and you could hear them snap whips and call to the horses, and horses strike their hooves against the wooden wall. Now he's just telling that the horse riding school was quite noisy. There was some odd smell of the horses were there, and also the horses were striking their hooves against the wooden wall as well. So the atmosphere was quite noisy. At first I was frightened and could not see things well. Then our valet called the riding master over to us. He said, "Give these boys some horses. They are going to learn how to ride." This shows that the boys were having their male servant with them, and the male servant, the valet, called the master of the horse riding and towards these boys and asked for few horses to learn the ride, and asked him for the few horses to learn the ride. The master said, "All right." Then he looked at me and said, "He is very small yet." But the valet said he promised not to cry when he falls down. And that was true. Actually, the boy promised his father that he won't cry if he will fall down from the horse while learning it. The master laughed and went away. Then they brought 3 saddle horses, and we took off our cloaks and walked down a staircase to the riding school. And finally 3 saddle horses were brought to them, and the boys who were wearing loose clothes, the hoodies or whatever they were wearing, the loose clothes, they just took off them, and thus they started going towards the staircase towards the riding school. My brothers climbed onto their horses and sat up straight and tall on the saddles. They were actually. Now, the boy is saying that my brothers easily managed to sit on the saddle, on the seat of the horses, which was being mounted on the back of the horses. The master was holding a horse by a cord, by a thin rope, and my brothers rode around him and they started riding. And at first, they rode at a slow pace, in a slow speed, and later at a trot. And they just after that they were trotting. They started trotting. They were walking fast. Started walking fast with the horse. Then they brought a pony, a small horse. It was a red horse, and his tail was cut off. He was called Rudy. The master laughed and said to me, well, young gentleman, get on your horse." And the master was actually laughing on me that I am such a little boy and how will I manage to ride the horse. That's why he was laughing on the boy. I was both happy and afraid and tried to act in such a manner as not to be noticed by anyone. Actually, the boy was being very afraid because he was just going to ride on a horse for the very first time. That's why he was very afraid, and he has been brought over there after begging his father so much. That's why he was not able to show his feelings towards anyone. For a long time I tried to get my foot into the stirrup, but could not do it because I was too small. And as his father said, very right, that you are too small, you will not manage to ride the horse. And again, when he was trying to manage to put his little foot in the stirrup, in the paddle of the horse, which was being attached to the saddle of the horse, he was unsuccessful many times because he was too small. Then the master noticed that I was still standing by the pony. He raised me up in his hand and put me on the saddle and said, "The young man is not heavy, about 2 pounds in weight. That is all." The master man was making fun of the boy that you are too small, too small, and still you want to ride the horse. And he just took took that boy in his hand and just put him on the back of the horse easily because he was too small and having a very less weight. At first he held me by my hand, and I saw that my brother were not held, and so I begged him to let me go of him. And while looking over my brothers, he was just copying his brothers that if no one is holding the cord of their horses, so he was also saying to the master of his horse that don't hold my cord as well. "Are you not afraid?" he asked. "I am very much afraid," but I said that I was not. I was very much afraid, but I said that I was not. I was so afraid because Rudy kept dropping his ears, and I thought he was angry at me. The boy was just observing the gestures of the horse, that how the horse is going to behave after some time. The master said, look out, don't fall down." He warned me that be very careful. Let go of me. At first, Rudy went to a slow pace and I sat up straight. But the saddle was still sleek and I was afraid I would slip off. "Well, are you fast in the saddle?" the master asked me. As the seat of his being fastened on the back of the horse was very sleek, was very smooth and very silky and very glossy. That's why I was unable to manage to sit on this. So I was getting slipped. The boy is saying that I was getting slipped again and again from that seat. "Yes, I am," I said. "If so, go at a slow trot." He warned me that don't run, just have a slow pace on the horse while you are riding. And the master clicked his tongue. Rudy started at a slow trot and began to jog me. He became very faster, but I kept silent. I tried not to slip to one side. because the seat of the saddle was very slippery. That's why he was getting slipped on the one side. Oh, a fine young gentleman indeed. The master praised me. He applauded me, and the boy saying that I was very glad. I was very glad to hear it. Just then the master's friend went up to him and began to talk with him, and the master stopped looking at me. His master got busy in some other things with his friend. Suddenly I felt that I had slipped a little to one side on my saddle. I wanted to straighten myself, but I was unable to do so. I wanted to call out to the master to stop the horse, but I thought it would be disgrace if I did it, so kept silent. What, the boy was getting slipped on the one side of the horse, and he was going to be fell down from the horse, but he was ashamed of calling someone, that if I'll call someone it would be very disgraceful for me, very shameful for me, that I am calling someone, and I have to ride it. I have to learn to ride the horse by myself. I have to be very independent in this regard. The master was not looking at me, and the Rudy ran at a trot. He was just running in so fast, and I slipped still more at one side. I looked at the master and thought that he would help me, but he was still talking with his friend, and without looking at me, he kept repeating, "Well done, young gentleman." I was now altogether at one side and was very much frightened. I thought I was lost, but I felt ashamed to cry. Rudy shook me up once more and slipped off entirely and fell to the ground. Finally, the boy was fallen down to the ground because he was being slipped. The boy was being slipped continuously because of the sleek saddle which was on the back of the horse. And look at this picture. He fell down. Then Rudy stopped, and master looked at the horse and saw that I was not on him. He said, "I declared, my young man has dropped off," and walked over to me. When I told him that I was not hurt, he laughed and said, "A child's body is soft." I felt like crying. I held back my tears, and I asked him to put me again on the horse, and I was lifted on the horse. After that, I did not fall down again, because the boy has learned by himself, because he made himself an independent in this regard, that he wanted to learn something. He was quite eager to learn horse riding, and he learned actually while falling once. He has been fallen just one time, and he learned how to manage himself to keep sitting himself on the horse. Thus we rode twice a week in the riding school, and I soon learned to ride well, and I was not afraid of anything, because he managed by himself to learn the ride. Now here are few vocabulary words that we have to do. Let's have a look on the vocabulary words. So here are the vocabulary words that you have to do these on your notebooks with the correct date and day on your notebooks, and you need to use your dictionary to find the meaning of these words. These are the 10 vocabulary words. That is whip, snap, wallet, saddle, clock, cord, stirrup, sleek, pace, and disgrace. So note down these vocabulary words on your notebooks and find their meaning with the help of your dictionary, English dictionary. English meanings you have to write synonyms. That means. Okay, that's it for today. You need to rephrase the lesson which we have learned today in your own words. You have to rephrase this lesson in your own words, and in the next lesson we'll do the exercise of this question as well. Okay, take care of yourselves. That's it for today. Allah Hafiz.